Hi everyone, this is Queen Cleopatra, and you are watching the life of Queen Cleopatra. Today, I just want to speak to the men, and today I want to talk about the king mindset. You know, when I was growing up, my father, the man who raised me, and then I also had another father who I basically adopted because, you know, he used to be like my spiritual guide, you know, because I was so spiritual. My father, who raised me, didn't always really understand me, but my spiritual father, he understood that part of me. But one thing I noticed was that they both had a pattern in the way that they lived. And this made them the extraordinary men that, I came to know. These are the things that I saw them do. First of all, they had a sense of duty, you know. They, the one, my first father, the one who raised me, he was a school principal. The second one was a pastor. And but what both of them had in common is they had a very good sense of duty, and they never deviated from it. In all the time I got to know them, they did not believe in wasting time. They saw that time is very important. I never also saw them make small talk with people who had nothing, not had nothing, but people who had no vision. They had a very strong sense of vision. And they usually only had friends, most of their friends were people at the same vision, or people you know, who inspired them or who they inspired. This was their friend circle. Like my father was very involved in education. My first father was very involved in education. And this was his vision, to teach people, because he was a teacher, he was also a principal, to teach people to, to take education further. And my second father, the pastor, his vision was to help people, to serve people, as a pastor should, to make sure that the spiritual life is good, because he counseled a lot of people, and both of these men, they became great community leaders. They naturally commanded respect because of their character, because people saw that, stable character, that unwavering character in them. They respected the woman in their life. Both of them have women who, the older men, obviously, they only had one wife. So both of them respected their wives. I never seen my father, my first father, I was raised by, who looked at another woman besides my mother. This was the woman that he loved. This was the woman he respected. He basically worshipped her. He never looked at another woman. My second father as well. He's a pastor. He's more surrounded by people. But he did a lot of counseling. But even him, I'd never seen him with loose women, cheating on his wife, stuff like that. Never. And you can see here, they took the lead in their life and also in their family, to lead their family and their wife. They took the lead. They knew that they are the men, and because they are the men in the house, they took the lead, and the woman doesn't have to. If you do not lead in your house, the woman will lead. This is a very important aspect of a king mindset, to lead. They have morals. This is also one of the big things I've seen in my life, and also what they taught me is to have morals. When you say yes, your yes means yes and your no means no. Especially my father, the first one, he believed in that. He always told me, if you say yes, it's yes. If you say no, it's no. You must keep your word. That was the big thing for him. And my second father also is a pastor, but my first father, he had a big problem with if you don't keep your word. And both of them, they don't do small talk. I've never seen them talk with, just talk because talk is talk. They don't like small talk. They talk, like my second father is a pastor, so obviously had to talk more with people, but both of them, they talk to inspire. They talk to help people. They talk to take people further in their lives, not to sit and chit chat the whole day with nothing to say, basically. Because I see a lot of our modern men, they don't really have direction. They can sit for hours, just sit and talk for no reason, you know. You're actually getting nowhere in your life like that. They both like to read, They both like to, there are people who want to learn about the world around them. I know my first father, I always saw him with a book. I never saw him without books. He had his own library. He used to read. He used to learn. And even my second father, they both loved to learn, to read. They were obviously very educated, very intelligent men. But these were men who, had a certain way and they loved to learn. And the other thing is they had a very good relationship with God. God is first in their life. I know my first father, at first, he was not so um, close to God. My mother, I think she inspired him because she was very religious. So he, later on in his life, I saw that he would take the Bible, he would read, and